Alright, so today I'm going to rank console gaming controllers. That's what we're doing today on this tier list. So, starting up, we have the Switch. Not the Pro controller, but the ones you get with the when you buy the Switch. I don't remember what they're called. Anyway, you know what these are. You see the picture. um, I don't think the setup itself is anything all that amazing, but I think what these represent, the ability to put these in to the console and be able to turn it into a portable. I think that makes this truly amazing. That's why I'm putting it up here. Um, this revolutionizes gaming. I think I wouldn't be surprised if in the future Sony and Microsoft do the same thing. I think a combination of this and PC gaming along with streaming is really the future of gaming. Um, so that's why I'm putting it up here in the main thing. This is the 360 controller. I think the 360 controller was good. I don't think it did anything to revolutionize anything. It's just a solid controller. I did not like the D-pad. I didn't like the D-pad. I think the D-pad was bad when it came to fighting games. It was kind of inaccurate. Would never recommend playing a fighting game on the 360 controller, in my opinion. I think the PlayStation controllers are more accurate when it comes to fighting games. So that's my opinion on that. Did not ever own or use an original Xbox controller. This is the Snes Controller. The Snes Controller. I didn't own a Snes growing up, but I have played a little bit. And what little bit I played, and looking at the design of its time, I think it was definitely revolutionary for its time. It's definitely one of the best, if not the best, for its time. Obviously, we've grown past this controller by now, but I think you, especially if you're a retro gamer, you can definitely still pick it up and play it. It functions. There's nothing wrong with it. It's definitely still a good controller. So yeah, I'm putting that in amazing as well because I think it's earned it. PlayStation 4. I'm gonna give it again amazing tier. I know maybe some people might not agree with this, but I think it improved upon the PlayStation in the proper way. It made it a little bit bigger. Not too big. Like if you got small hands, it's still not too big for you, but it didn't feel quite as cramped if you had like big hands. It was the right adjustment, I think, and I think the little pad was pretty cool in the middle there. I think it worked really well. I think it's minor touches, but it was minor touches that were positive improvements. They didn't need to go fancy with it to make it a great controller, in my opinion. That is the Saturn, I believe. I did not play the Saturn. I did play the Genesis. And I remember the Genesis being pretty good. Maybe it don't hold up now. I haven't picked one up in over a decade, but I was like 4 when I picked up this controller. Yeah, maybe it's not all that great, but I remember it being pretty good. So I'm gonna put it in good based on my memory of it. Genesis controller's fine, based on my memory. The Wii U. I barely touched this controller. I think I've touched it maybe, I can probably count on one hand how many times I've touched a controller, and I don't think any of it was a long period of time. So for that reason, I'm going to say I'm going to put it I didn't use it, but that's only because I don't think I had enough experience with it to fairly rank it. PlayStation 1. And this is when they added the analog stick to the PlayStation 1. I think this truly set the standard for a gaming controller, and it still does to this day. That's the reason why Sony has never gone too far away from this style controller, because it works really well and it still holds up to this day. I'm putting it up there in amazing. because it just, I mean, it added the analog stick. I mean, there's a reason why it's almost like the blueprint for even still modern day controllers in a way. So that's why I'm putting it up there and amazing. And this is the Switch Pro controller. And again, another amazing controller. This is basically like it. I mean, it's set up almost the same as this, but it's obviously it's a full controller, and it fits just wonderfully in your hand. I have one. Well, technically I have like an off-brand version, but roommate has one. The one I have, basically the same thing, just a little bit, just a cheaper version of it. They're both still amazing. I've used both of them. I think it's a great controller. Definitely one of the better controllers I've ever picked up. You can't go wrong with it. I think it's the best controller Nintendo has made to this day. It's definitely their best controller. This is the PlayStation controller before they added the analog stick. I still think it's revolutionary. And I think there's a reason why when they improved upon it, they didn't really change anything. They just added to it. That's why it's still a classic. But because they did add an analog stick in the same generation, I'm just going to put it in great. Because it's still a great controller. It just needed a few extra touches. And they did that when they added the analog sticks. PlayStation 2. There's really no difference between the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1 controller. And there's a reason why. Like, again, it's a classic. It's the standard of controller. But because they didn't do anything different, really, I'm putting in great because it's still a great, solid controller. Again, that holds up to this day. It just didn't really do anything different than the late PS1 controller did. GameCube controller. GameCube controller is probably the second best controller Nintendo did. It was definitely a lot better than the 64 controller, which we'll get to very shortly. And because of that, and I remember really enjoying it, especially, I mean, they still make these for like the wireless versions of them. And I think there's a reason why it's still a very popular controller, especially like with like Smash Bros. And for that, I'm gonna put it in great. I'm not gonna put it in amazing. I'm gonna put it in great. And the reason why is because I think these two just did a little bit better, but it's still a great controller, one that still very much I think holds up to this day. NES. This and the Genesis were the first two controllers I ever picked up as a kid when I was like 4 years old. Playing the original Mario with this controller. It's a good controller. It's bare bones. Even more, almost, I dare say, a little more bare bones than the Genesis in a way. It's just a rectangle with some buttons on it. It is what it is. First time, I think it was good. Nowadays, I think it's okay. So I'm just going to put it as okay. But I can understand if someone says it's still good because it did, up the standard a little bit. I mean, if it wasn't for the NES, we definitely wouldn't be here in gaming. So we owe a lot to it. It's what got it. It's one of the systems that got us here. And for that reason, it's okay. But there's a reason why we've improved much upon it since then. Ooh. And here we have the 64 controller. Now, I'm sure there are fans of this controller, but I'm just not one of them. I think what hurts the 64 controller the most is how bad it's aged. Have you ever tried to pick up a modern day controller and try to emulate a game on PC, and it just... Ignore the Brave ad over there in the corner. And it's just a jumbled mess and overly complicated to try to emulate it on a modern controller. I remember I was trying to emulate Turok Rage Wars. Turok Rage Wars I was trying to emulate. And in the Turok games, you use the C-pads to move. And you use the middle analog stick over there to, like, change your view. Like, turn your view around. Like, turn around and such. And trying to change that to a modern controller was a little complicated. I eventually got it. It was just more of a hassle than it needed to be, in my opinion. And let's look at this controller. Yeah, it definitely probably looked cool in the time, especially in the 90s. But we don't have 3 hands. We have 2 hands. This was not necessary. In fact, you almost completely ignored the left side of the controller in most games, at least in front. I remember, you almost completely ignored the left side of the controller. You really didn't even need it there. It was just a weird design. I think the age has hurt it more than anything, so I'm gonna put it in meh. It's not trash. It still works. It just was not. I think it's Nintendo's weakest controller. And I know there's probably fans of it, like I've said, and that's fine. If you like it, that's fine. This is my opinion. And my opinion is meh. The Dreamcast. This was the beginning of the end of Sega consoles. I liked the Dreamcast growing up. I don't remember the controller a whole lot. I never owned one. My uncle had one, and I remember his like best friend had one, so I'd play theirs whenever I could. And from what I remember, it was a decent controller. It was okay. I think it was a good controller. I definitely think it was better than the 64 controller. But was it really that good? I think it was still probably pretty good. I'm gonna think it was good. I might be wrong. Maybe that's just my memory not serving me well. But I think for its time it was pretty good. At least it was at least okay. I could probably put that in okay. Well, you did have the core is at the bottom, and that was really weird. I don't know. I'm gonna put it as okay. Maybe I'm upsetting people. I don't know. I'm gonna put it as okay because I just don't remember it that well. And maybe there's a reason. But anyway, moving on. The Wii Controller. The Wii Controller, I think, was revolutionary. After the Wii came out, not only did first off, the Wii outsold PS3 and 360. Think about that. A lot of people don't know that, but it outsold both those consoles. And once the Wii motion control became popular, Microsoft and Sony needed their own motion control. You had the PlayStation Move, you had the Xbox Kinect, but the Xbox Kinect didn't have a controller. It was just this weird thing, and it was trash. That was trash. The PlayStation Move, to my knowledge, is pretty good. Kinect definitely needed some work when it first came out. It was revolutionary. I want to put it in great, but it did revolutionize gaming, and Nintendo's good for that. Nintendo's really good for innovating and pushing the limits where I think Sony and Microsoft kind of stagnate a little bit. And the Wii is the second best-selling console for Nintendo. I think the Switch recently passed it, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's now the second best-selling console for Nintendo. So I'm gonna put it as amazing because of how revolutionary it was. Am I the biggest fan of it? I liked it for what it is. I think for how revolutionary it is, I'm gonna put me personally. I'm gonna put it up in amazing because, yeah, PlayStation 3. I've heard some people say the PlayStation 3 controller was a little bit flimsier, felt a little bit cheaper to them. I did not personally experience that. I know some of them felt really light. I think the first ones were kind of heavy, but then like the later ones, they felt really light, like almost like picking up paper. um, but I didn't have any issues. I know a friend of mine. He said he dropped it once and it never worked again. I mean, maybe it's the manufacturing. Maybe he just had a bad drop, or maybe he just had a bad controller. I don't know. I personally did not experience any issues with the PS3 controller. Not that I really remember. I didn't really care that they changed the bottom triggers too much. You know how it folded in, and like when you put the controller down, like it would kind of fold in, like the controller would like tilt. And if you didn't have game pause, you might end up tossing a grenade or something, and you didn't intend to, or if you bumped it wrong or something. I don't think it was great. I mean, it didn't really change anything. It added a little button right here in the middle. But I mean, again, there's a reason why they didn't have to change it, because it's still just a classic, great example of a good controller, just like the PlayStation 1 and 2 was. But it didn't really change anything much. It didn't change much, in my opinion. What are these? Are these the Xbox Ones? I know it's the Xbox One. I don't have an Xbox One. That looks like an Xbox One controller. I didn't touch it, so yeah, didn't use it. This is my list, everyone. So maybe you agree, maybe you don't. That's fine. This is just my opinion, guys. So if you have a different opinion, leave something in the comments. This is all good fun. This is just my opinion. There's no reason to get upset. And with that being said, that's it. Take care, guys.